very top of the list. And I know, as you alluded to, the year has been it's strange for everybody, and landscape change, but you're finally here, so thank you so much.
We got there.
We did indeed.
And thank you guys for showing up tonight. It's crazy times, I know. And it's very hard to run any kind of event, and get any kind of attendance. So thank you for being here.
Yeah, they're great guys. So, look, anyways, as you know from the WhatsApp that I sent out this morning and from the socials that we've been sharing all week, so an entrepreneur, first and foremost, the reason that we have her here is to talk maybe a little bit about her startup, Little Bliss, and what inspired and maybe why and how that business was set up. We'll be discussing, but also television personality and presenter and broadcaster, and many of you may know her from that part of her life and that role that she plays. And a mom of 3 boys as well, so like very, very impressive in lots of different ways and lots of facets to your life. So I hope you did your justice there with that introduction.
It's a lovely introduction. I'll do anything to run away from the 3 little boys.
My mother is a mother of 3 as well. And,
is she?
And she used to tell me, and dad as well, is like, it was grand when there was 2 of you, but then there was a third and we're outnumbered, and boys would be boys and a tough gig.
Yes, and they're at swimming lessons at the moment, so I'm dodging that.
Well,
delighted to be here. It's much handier.
So, Ellen, can you tell us, it's okay, about your startup?
Yeah, of course.
Little Bliss, what is it about?
Little Bliss. Little Bliss has been in the making for a long time, and if I'm really honest, I didn't have the courage to start it because I had another life. I suppose I was a TV presenter, I still am a TV presenter, and that kind of took up all of my time, and there was no real need to develop something. Then lockdown happened, and I can go back to the TV stuff if you like, but during lockdown my husband lost his family business, and suddenly I had this kind of revelation where I thought his family business was an institution in Ireland, was mother care. You're probably all far too young to know about the heritage of the mother care brand, but it was a particularly significant brand, and almost overnight it was gone. And I suddenly thought to myself, I work in television. It's probably one of the most fickle industries you can be a part of. 1 week, you're loved by the producers and the directors, and the next week they want a brunette, and it can be as fickle as that. And I'm very aware of that. So I also thought I'm working on these various campaigns and kind of influencer, ambassador, collaboration type stuff with loads of different brands, but not necessarily anything that's for me. Do you know what I mean? And they'll come back to me and go, that collab was amazing, that worked so well, we sold blah blah blah. And after a while you start to go, why am I doing this for other people all the time? It's not like they're paying me, it's all very fair. But you start to have a moment, and maybe it was Ben's family business going that gave me a bit of a kick up the arse and went, hold on a second, you need to do something for yourself. So that's where Little Bliss started, I suppose. I've been scribbling logos, I've been thinking about clothing line, and the clothing line that I was thinking about for years was almost the opposite of what people would know me for, which is kind of glamorous television clothing, because obviously you have to be, even when they say casual, it's never really casual, you know what I mean? It's totally casual. But the reality is, as you said now, I like 3 little boys, and as soon as I come home from work, my husband don't feel like you need to make any effort for me. My hair goes up, the wig goes off, the hoodie goes on. I'm kicking a ball around the green with 3 little kids. Do you know what I mean? So if I was going to be true to my own real lifestyle, it was going to be casual wear. So that's what the brand is. It's everyday. It's a little bit of luxury, but it's everyday casual wear.
Nice. I know you will get into some ethical and moral kind of business model. Tell us about that.
Well, I thought to myself, I was approached by a lot of different brands to do different collaborations, and sometimes it's hard to turn away, lucrative campaigns. But when you look at their website, it takes you about 10 seconds to go, not really much of an ethos there, or receive a package from them and it's completely covered in plastic, and there's no one. It's not like they don't care. It's like they haven't even thought of it.
Yeah. And I think there's an alternative, and if it's too much effort, they won't bother.
Exactly. So I've been on the receiving end of a lot of press packages, and they're all fabulous and beautiful and they look great for Instagram, but actually the waste is gigantic.
Okay.
And I've become very aware of that, you know, the hampers and the bulk that they send. One, the expectation that you will automatically share it, and the other is that you know, it's just a gigantic waste, all of these materials. So I thought to myself, well, if I'm going to set up my own brand, it needs to be, you know, about sustainable fashion that will last. So you might wear it for a few years, but it'll still be in a condition where you can pass it down or sell it on, or, you know, give it to the local second-hand shop or put it on eBay or Depop or whatever. But the packaging, not only should it be, you know, in a position where it goes straight into the green bin, it should be made of recyclable materials. So you're, you know, adding to that circular economy. We keep reusing things all the time. So even the polyester in the garments on Little Bliss is recycled polyester. The cotton is organic. So, you know, I'm not saying I've thought of everything. I've no doubt there will be a sustainable brand who'll call me up on something.
Yeah,
so, you know, I'm very conscious of, you know, even labeling it on the banner, you know, sustainable, and I don't do that because I don't think anyone has it perfect.
No, but you're making an effort, and it's obvious that you are, and it's part of your business model, and it's important enough to give it a go, and you open that criticism. You know, that even shows that you care about it more, because you know that the ethical part of the brand is important. It's not perfect, but other companies might even have the courage to give it a go and try to make that positive impact.
You see, there's so many attractive options. If you don't buy packaging, for example, whatever your product is, it doesn't matter whether you're selling, you know, yogurts or jumpers. You know, you have to package up your product if it's going to be sold and, you know, be dispatched and delivered to, you know, the end consumer. And it's much cheaper to buy in packaging from China. Like I've checked with loads of very reputable brands that we all consume. I've asked them where their packaging is from. It's from China. So, you know, that doesn't sit well with me. At the same time, you're running a business and you have margins and you need to make money. So you want to support the local businesses. I have an Irish company that I buy my packaging from at the moment. But it's something that you have to closely monitor.
Yes, and like invariably we'll have to make trade-offs.
Because the cheap option is always the most tempting.
See, that's it, and as entrepreneurs and as business people, like we're doing it for, you know, as well as making the world a better place and providing a service or a product the world needs, we're doing it for our own monetary gains. So that's how it should be. It's how we live in the real world.
It needs to be a viable business, you know.
It's a hobby otherwise.
You don't set it up to not make a profit, do you know what I mean? You have to support your family. Of course, you're in it for it to become a salary. You know, and that doesn't make you a bad person. And I think we're all okay to say that out loud.
Absolutely. And if anybody was to say otherwise on their business, they're lying or they're a bad business person. You know? And there's a way you can do both. Like, it doesn't have to be A or B. There has to be a little area, a grey area, and that's what we look for, is that we're making the world a better place. We're still providing this income that allows us to be, you know, a little bit more independent, a little bit more free, a little bit more in control and have more autonomy over our lives, without making the world any worse than we started in this project. So it's admirable and it's brave. And like we were discussing just before we came down here, that, you know, coming out of your comfort zone for everybody. What we're doing right now is difficult for us both, and it definitely wouldn't be, you know, it's daunting for everybody, but the ability to give something a go for the potential of a brighter future, and whether it's, you know, standing up in your comfort zone talking with the students, or setting their own business and do something a little bit differently for your own motives, like that's commendable and applaudable in my eyes at least. And, you know, okay, we'll retract. So prior career, first student life, all this stuff that Daly did before Little Bliss. How has it helped? What were the learnings? How has it hindered? What are your experiences up to now? How did you get to this point as an entrepreneur?
Well, I'm looking at you guys and I'm thinking, like, what was I doing when I was in college? I was bloody twirling, do you know what I mean? And I was doing everything but what you're sitting here doing now. Like, I want to rewind time and be as astute and as, you know, enthusiastic and motivated as you guys are. But I suppose, you know, every business person will tell you, it's a bit like actors, you know, they don't get their break until they're 65 sometimes, and the whole world changes. You have to have that moment, that switch needs to flick for you, you know, and if you guys are at this stage in your lives and you're sitting here listening, to anyone who set up a business to learn more and to grow. I just think that's so impressive. But I will say, you know, working as a lounge girl in the pub in Temple Oak at 16 years of age is not wasted. You know, I went fruit picking in Australia with my friends, backpacking after college.
Nice.
That will give you Bundaberg. That will give you the value of money pretty quickly. You know, I worked as a chambermaid in Surfers Paradise.
Oh wow!
Hotel where the Olympic team were staying.
Oh,
and we were making the beds. But at the same time, that like all of those experiences bring you to a point where you're ready and you have the confidence, and also the amount of different people that you meet on those journeys, and difficult people and difficult customers, and you know, kind of compromising scenarios that you need to negotiate your way out of, you know. Like I look at my own 3 little boys and I think to myself, even if I have all of the means in the world to support them at those stages in their lives, I do think having those experiences, going out to get those part-time jobs, you know, they stand to you.
I do think so, and I think more than that, I think those that do that, and those that maybe, look, and some of us do it out of choice or do it out of college or whatever, but it's like, when you get those lessons early, regardless of how they came about, I think there's more chance to be successful. And you have more drive than maybe than somebody who was born with anything they'll ever need, and never have to go to graft and do different things. And then be more relatable. I think that's like, definitely when I met you, it would have been 3 or 4 years, more even, probably 6 years ago the first time I met you, but you're so relatable, and so when you meet people, you talk to people, you meet them on their level no matter what background they come from, and I think that's from all the experiences that maybe eventually you've had, you know? You relate to them.
Yeah, I think so, and I think you have to kind of, you don't even realise it, but you have all of those conversations in a file somewhere in the back of your head, and it ultimately forms the person you are, you know? It also helps you to hustle a bit. Do you know, to not be afraid to go, hold on a second now, is that fair? I'm going to make a few phone calls now and check that out. Do you know, it kind of makes you a bit more, I won't say greedy because that's the wrong word, but it certainly kind of, it keeps the spark alive when you have to chase something.
Yes.
You know, and even in television, you know, we are so quick to put up on LinkedIn or Instagram or wherever, you know, I'm delighted to team up with blah, 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 or, you know, thrilled to be presenting this show. You don't hear about the bajillion rejections that go on behind the scenes. Like, no one ever takes social media and goes, you know, I went to 500 castings last year and didn't get one. Amy Huberman said that on the Late Late at one point, and I was like, oh my God, I like her even more now.
Yes.
Because she's had rejection. Now it feels normal. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's so normal. And so like it's the unsaid truth that we all probably deep down know because we're all experiencing as individuals. But when somebody else says it and it goes out of the air, it's like, okay, this is great.
Yeah. And even in business, you know, a lot of people will say you don't know business until you go out of business.
Yeah.
That's my husband's line, and it suits him now.
Was he saying it before?
It was not. It suits him now. But you know, if you look at any, there's a great Java Republic story. The coffee guy who went out of business twice before Java was ever launched. You know, so you need to be a certain type of person, and those knocks, I think. Well, I suppose they either drive you out of business completely, or they'll build you up and they'll make you harder and stronger.
Yeah, and I think one way or the other, they'll make you harder. But I think if your mindset is right and you see every failure or every knockback as a lesson, and like you go deep on the experience, like what can I take from this into the next one?
Yeah.
As an entrepreneur, one of the things that if you had your time over again, even since you set up Little Bliss, you've done differently.
I think Little Bliss is only a year old, and actually I think I'm doing okay, as in I'm being quite ballsy with it.
Okay.
You know, any opportunity that comes my way, I'm taking it. I had a little bit of a conflict with Virgin in that I launched Little Bliss with their permission. I won't bore you with the contract negotiation details, but on the other hand, I wasn't allowed to do other things because I was employed by them. There's a lesson for you guys if you're ever negotiating a job, a contract. Just make sure, because at the time I was so happy to get the job and to be promoted from reporter to anchor. That's where I was going from and to, and I was thrilled with that. But they had like an exclusive rights over anything else that I did. So, you know, if someone said to me on a Tuesday, we want you to work on this brand, I wasn't allowed by Virgin standards. So that's just a lesson for everybody too. And I probably should have been much more savvy and sophisticated about that in the first place. So there's a learning. I also probably spent years as a presenter, particularly in the reporter years when you're running around. And in fairness, I mean, they were great. It was a great job to have, you know, especially pre-children, because you're flying here, there and everywhere, and everything is last minute. And they can throw anything at you because your time is your own when you've got children. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can jump on a plane and you can just say to your boyfriend, I won't be around for the next few weeks or whatever, or even husband, pre-children. You know, it's all fine. And I really enjoyed those years. I think I probably would have pitched the idea for the weekend show that ultimately got me that anchor gig sooner, looking back. But it's like the business thing, you know, you arrive at a point and that switch gets flicked in your head when you're ready, you know? So I suppose there's no point in wasting kind of negative energy going, I wish I did that quicker or sooner, because we're all different and we all do things at different rates, and I think it probably makes the whole thing more authentic when you do it and then you commit to it properly.
Yeah, no, I'm with you, and I think I agree with, like, regret is not a waste of emotion, and every decision you make at that time was with the information that you had, and you can't, you know, put experience, you know, you can only learn by doing.
Yeah.
So I'd be saying as that, and there could be things that if you were to encounter the exact same situation, right now, let's say, for whatever reason you have another contract in front of you can make those changes now with the new information.
Absolutely.
And it's your problem and responsibility to do that.
Absolutely, I'd be an absolute fool if I didn't.
Yes. Well, okay. And that's in my head now as well, because, like, you know, I joined this entrepreneurial society 4 years ago, and I have nothing but my ambition to be a full-time entrepreneur at some point. Like, you know, I want to have my own business, and I want to do my own thing, and I want all the freedoms that come with that. But until I'm in a position where I can make that jump, you know, I have to be taking jobs, but I'm looking at contracts a little bit more closely, and do I have flexibility to do my own thing, because you need to do that for a while.
Exactly, you do, and you need to leave yourself, and the joy of being an entrepreneur, like, I feel like such an imposter saying I'm an entrepreneur. It just sounds far too fancy for my reality, if you know what I mean. Like I said to my husband recently, like, that's so cringy, you know, I don't even have any staff. And he was like, you've employed a fulfillment company to pack your boxes every day. That's like a family business in Portlaoise. And I am, albeit one of the brands that they, you know, pick, pack, dispatch for. But I completely forgot about that. Do you know what I mean? It's like, you are the lifeblood of that family's business, you know? So you have to kind of remind yourself of elements like that sometimes and go, actually, I am.
Totally, and you are, and like, sometimes words come with connotations, don't they? And we have, like, an entrepreneur will be one of those. Last week I was interviewing a group of influencers, and, like, it's a, you know, the word that comes with baggage, you know, whatever it is. But if you actually look at the word influencer, that's exactly what they were. Now if you look at entrepreneur, that's exactly what you are. Because it's creativity, it's creating something new that wasn't in existence before you could thought it up. And you know, there's money being generated from it. You're an entrepreneur. And you know, so is Zuckerberg and the lads. But we're all in the same boat, with different levels of success. We'll get there. I'll watch you, Mark. He's probably watching us. He's on Zoom.
He's tuned in.
So what would be, okay, let's say this is your new world and you are an entrepreneur. What is your favourite thing about it? What do you like the most?
Favourite thing about the range or favourite thing about the job?
The job. You being in control of.
You've just nailed it.
Nice.
Me deciding that I don't have to tell anyone that I have a dental appointment on Wednesday at 11 o'clock. That sounds so simple.
No.
But that is not that simple for most people. Do you know what I mean? Most people have to answer to a line manager, because I worked in TV3 pre-on air, so I worked in their marketing department because that's what I studied. And, you know, there's a whole world of layers of managers that you have to go through. Being an entrepreneur, yes, there's sleepless nights, yes, there's worries and gambles and all that kind of stuff, but you are your own boss. You decide, you know, when you work, and maybe that's 10 o'clock tonight, you know, maybe you're fired up at midnight, who cares? Do you know, but you're not, I just think that's a joy, to not have to explain your movements to anybody. That's a massive privilege.
Same. And it's the freedom and that autonomy to be in control of your day-to-day life.
And I don't think it means that you work any less. It probably means you work more. You never check in and check out. You know, there's no one really watching your movements, but it's yours. So you're completely invested in it 24/7.
And again, what they say is like when you're doing that for somebody else, it's stress. When you're doing it for yourself, it's passion.
Yeah.
And the opportunities and the potential is limitless, and it's your game that will.
Yeah, and I think you can take the knocks as well, and you can say to yourself, Jesus, I should have moved quicker on that, or you know, I shouldn't have bought so much of that, or you know, whatever. For me, it's the accounting side is the bit that I kick myself over. If I was to change one thing about Little Bliss since I started it, I would be way more tuned in to the figures. So I started and I had this very simplistic way of just recording what I spent and what I took in. And only recently my accountant is asking questions and I'm like, well, I have it on that Excel spreadsheet. It couldn't be more basic. And they're like, but do you have an app for uploading the receipts, and do you have a management account as well as no, they're all just on the Excel spreadsheet. So it's really unsexy and it's really boring, but actually it's having your figures straight from the start will help you to be in a position to make decisions. Can I buy more stock? Can I go on that trip? Can I expense that flight? Can I meet that person and expense the dinner? You know, all of those things, you can answer those questions properly if your accounts are in order, because you know where you stand.
Yeah, and I agree with you on that as well.
And you're not expected to be an accountant, because I did say those words recently. You know, you're running a business. You can't be expected to be brilliant at every single area of the business. Do you know what I mean? You're for me, I'm the buyer, I'm the hirer, I'm the, well, I'm not a graphic designer, but I'm kind of feeding into the graphic designer. Do you know what I mean? You're doing all of these jobs, content creating, marketing, stock control, buying.
Model.
Yes, exactly. Next week I'm in Portugal on a buying trip, suddenly you're a buyer. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You cannot be expected to be an accountant on top of all of that. So what you can do is go to an accountant and say, because no one's in a position when they create a startup to hire an accountant. What you can have is some kind of a package that costs you a $5 a month, and you start with that and you continue with that, and suddenly you have a much more organised basis for your accountant to look at.
Nice. And I think we've had other speakers that have come on and say something similar, that
a lot of creative people are not good on the account stuff.
No.
Like I know from women in business conferences, all of that kind of stuff. Maybe it's a female thing.
No, I'm with you. And I think from my education perspective as a teacher, they tell me I'm wrong and they tell me you're not. I think there is something that you're kind of into your numbers or you're not.
Yeah.
And you will really get your head around the maths and the figures quite easily, and you enjoy it or you don't.
Yeah.
And when my teacher cap on, they say that's not true, and he can't do anything. But I know my older brother, numbers, stats. He just loves it. He inhales it and he just smashes it.
And it's easy for him.
Oh, he loves it.
Yeah.
He wouldn't be up here on the stage on this chat for €1 million. But he'd make €1 million in 25 seconds with a
Yeah.
He's just that way inclined. So maybe I'm biased by that. But I'm with you. I'm like, if there's one thing I could be better at, it would be the figures and probably caring more about it. And
Exactly. And that's the thing. You don't have to be brilliant at it, but you do need to have some simplistic enough system from the start.
Yeah.
So you don't make the mistake I've made and have bits of things everywhere.
Well, perfect, yeah. You're doing it. And look, this is something that I hadn't intended asking you, but you mentioned at the moment you're doing it all yourself. Will there be a time that what does the future of Little Bliss look like, or as the business grows?
Well, I'm looking at an office at the moment, which will be kind of a graduation for the brand, because at the moment it comes from home. The fulfillment comes from the warehouse, so my stock gets sent to a warehouse in Portlaoise, where they fulfill the orders. So I see the orders coming in, as do they fulfill them, and they go out from the customer from there. So I go up and back to that fulfillment company in Portlaoise just to check the layout of things and how things are. Certain items need to hang rather than be folded, just so they go out in a certain condition rather than look increased. But for me, I would like to be able to have a base that isn't in the home.
Yeah.
Because as a housewife, mother, whatever you want to call me, there's far too many distractions in a house.
Yeah.
And then suddenly the business can come second to everything else that's happening.
Yeah.
Whereas if mum's at work in the way I would have been when I'm doing television, mum's just gone. Do you know what I mean? You're just getting stuff done. So I'm looking at that at the moment, and I think we'll probably have that sorted in the next few months.
Exciting times, Anna, exciting times. And I suppose you mentioned already, but like with your presence and what you've done prior, you know, somebody actually said to me recently, because I had my modelling base and I had, you know, a certain amount of, let's say, followers or something, you know, that assisted me with kind of getting a startup off the ground and using that, you know, using yourself and your own brand to build a new brand and to be aligned with. And you would have kind of alluded to that already yourself. And because we had influencers in again last week, and Rosalind, who you would know, how have you been using social media, or is it a big part of your plan to be utilising social media for your business?
Yeah. Social media, as you say, you know, there's negative connotations to the word influencer. Has been incredible for my business. It has been the lifeblood of my business. I haven't spent a penny on marketing.
Wow.
Not a single penny. I absolutely will, and I plan to, and of course everybody needs to, but like my husband, who has been running a business and now a different one, is astonished at the fact that I haven't spent a penny on marketing.
Amazing.
What have I done? I've used my Instagram profile, and yes, I'm lucky enough to have a profile because of the TV stuff. Twitter to a lesser extent, because I kind of feel like it's not the place to be. You know, it's not really part of the Twitter conversation unless it is. Do you know what I mean? But Instagram and Facebook, I don't love Facebook, but you kind of need to love it for the purposes of business, has been incredible. And you can see from the analytics to a website where the sales are coming from. And it's Instagram. It's probably 98% Instagram.
That's unreal.
Yeah, it's amazing. Now, I've done gifting to, you know, fellow presenters, influencers. I've done discount codes, you know, as in I've given an influencer an exclusive discount code for their followers, and suddenly you're talking to a whole other cohort of people, because there will get to a time, and I've probably reached it now, where I've talked to my audience. Yes. And anyone who's about to be converted to Little Bliss has been converted. You know? I totally understand that. But there will be a point in the future where I need to start paying and building on that. In the way you see the sponsored ads coming in on your feed, you know, they're targeting you because you are their core target market, unless they've got the algorithm wrong, and then, you know, the brand is wasting their money. But for the most part, you know, the brands that show up as ads on your Instagram feed are the brands that you probably like or buy or aspire to. In my case, it's stuff I can never afford.
Not yet. Wait till this takes off properly. And for you to be able to do that for 1 year organically, without any input and marketing money, just off your own bat, it's so encouraging. What a strong base to have. And to be able to even do that, like what you're talking about there, is like very cool little tricks that you can be doing. And do you think a lot of that in studies that you've done in marketing, you know, when you were a student stands to
marketing helps, but at the same time, like my marketing degree is prehistoric now, because, you know, I studied marketing in college and there was no digital marketing. So it's fairly redundant, if you know what I mean, anything I did learn. So I don't feel too bad about bunking off lectures now. But I think, you know, for all the flack social media gets, I just think it's been an incredible tool for me. It's also given me the chance to, you know, when you leave a program, now I could never mention my brand on the program anyway. It's like parallel lives, you know, you can't obviously do that, and that's totally right. But on my own platforms, people, I suppose, know me and trust me if they watch the program. So you're not starting from scratch with people, you know. They're not like, I'm not sure about your man, or I'm not sure about her, you know, because...
And you've been so genuine and so authentic on television for so long, and they say in business, be known, be liked, be trusted. And then you can say... Yeah, that's interesting, And you are that, and because you're authentic, you're trusted, and your personality transcends, and you're liked, and you're obviously known. But then to use social media to your advantage. You said you were lucky to have that fan base or that follower base. It wasn't lucky. You've been working so hard as a TV presenter for so long.
Well, it's been built up over years, I suppose. But yeah, to have to be able to tell those people, here's where I'm at and here's what I'm developing. And you know, if it's not your thing, that's fine too. But if you want to come along with this journey, and I suppose I shared, and that's another really important element. If you're starting anything, it doesn't have to be hoodies or sweatshirts. It could be any product you decide to launch. Give people an insight, give them more, do you know what I mean? Give them that kind of behind the scenes. Like, I'm a TV nerd. If I'm watching anything, like bloody Masked Singer or something, you know, anything, the X Factor, if they go behind the scenes into the gallery, I'm like, oh my God, we're going to see more. We're going to see that behind the scenes, the TV stuff that you get access to, but the viewer doesn't.
Yeah.
And I think people are the same about, countries, cities you're visiting for business. Give them the, Paris for business, Paris on business for 2 nights. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Give them layers of extra stuff.
Yeah.
And they're not just buying the hoodie then, they're buying the whole experience. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
It's authentic, it's genuine, it's you bringing them on that journey, and and you include them on decisions as well. Jesus, people love that,
Yeah.
Will I go with this or this?
Yeah.
They love it. They're now part of a journey. They're voting on something. They're interacting.
And it's direct kind of research as well from your perspective when they're voting. It's like, okay, this is what I want.
Yeah, it's your core customer, because they're not going to be arsed if they're not. They're gone to someone else.
Yeah.
In the way we all do. We give people seconds, don't we? We're gone, short attention span.
Yeah. Cool. Look, it looks like things are going very well for Anna and the Little Bliss, and you're doing it all on your own back, and it's a lot of respect. It's because it's not easy, and you're doing so well, and we're all rooting for you. As you said, like consumers can turn to customers with a sale, and then customers can become advocates and friends, and they can become staff maybe eventually, but they're building that community around you. But it starts with you, and it's just great to see it going so well already. So we do have time for questions. I mentioned that to you before.
Yeah, sure. Yeah,
and
of course.
We have a question already. Is that from the Zoom?
Yeah.
Okay, well, we'll look around the audience now as well. We have time for questions from you. And I was saying to Anna, okay, so we mentioned this just in our back and forth, because, you guys would be potentially part of the Little Bliss market, if not now, very shortly, and we'd be interested in your insight in terms of the brand and things like that as well. So it could be a bit of more of an interactive Q&A today, and we might throw some questions back at you as well. And I know there's people on Zoom that might have questions, so I'll open that to them as well. So it's as much about getting input from you guys as it is getting answers from Anna, if that's okay. And we'll have 10 or 15 minutes of that. That's okay.
Perfect.
Okay, so we have a question over here.
Donica asked, sorry, I'm hiding behind here. Are there any strategies you would recommend to grow a following or online presence?
Oh, that's a great question. I think, who am I talking to? Sorry, Donica?
Donica.
Hi, Donica. Donica, I think you have to be yourself. And if that means you're kind of a shy person, then be a shy person. If you're a funny, kooky person, be a he's a funny, kooky person. He comes into...
I'm a goof.
He's a goofball, yeah, exactly.
That's what I am.
And, obviously he's a model, so, you'll have people in studios and TV world going, oh my God, of course he's a model. It's obviously it's an instant attraction. But the fact that you're funny on top of it, it's like there's another layer. He's actually so goofy, he's not aloof, because people think model, they straight away think, well, he's just not going to say hello to anyone, or, So I think whatever you are, be it on social media. Don't try and be the people who, and I'd say this to TV presenters as well, you might love Holly Willoughby, for example. I love watching her. I think she's very authentic and very, natural. But I can't decide tomorrow to just be her, because I'm not her, so I have to just be me. And you learn that very quickly doing 3 hours of live television every morning. Yeah. That you could do that for about 5 minutes until there's an off-the-cuff chat, and suddenly you're like, oh my God, I need to be me again. So just be you, and let those quirks happen, and give people an insight into the brand. And like I say, let them vote on things, find out what they want, ask people what they think. You can't just develop a product and go, unless you're Apple and you're just announcing that, what's the line? It's a great one actually. The iPod was being launched, and Steve Jobs just stood up and went, 1,000 songs in your pocket.
Oh yeah.
It's just such a great line, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's just
like no waffle. He could have talked about the cutting edge technology, he could have talked about anything. Just one line explains it all. Yeah. But we're not Apple. Nope. So I think you need to bring people on a journey and get their input into whatever that product or service or person you are. Nice. But always be yourself.
Nice. And Oscar Wilde said it here once upon a time. He said, everybody else already taken it.
Yeah, exactly. Great line.
I love it. But I think that's true for life as it is for business. It's like the fake people have a hard time being you know, in any way sincere or consistent, because they're always putting up a facade. Whereas if you're confident or secure enough to just be you, life becomes easier. It's like you walk into every room as the same person, and there's no kind of act or pretense. It's like everybody knows exactly who you are. And if I'm the guru,
and not everyone will like you. Do you know what I mean? And that's okay. That's okay. You
don't
have to worry about
it. Did you say not everybody will?
Not everyone.
Yeah,
will.
I love that.
Yeah.
And let them go. And the ones that like it will stick.
Yeah. Because on social media, I think it was Tess Daly who presents Strictly. I'm conscious that none of you probably watch TV, so.
Oh, they do. No way. You're giving them too much credit. Oh, loves TV. She's always watching TV.
But she said, you know, when you were growing up with your family, it just really resonated with me. She said something like, and you'd say to each other as a family, oh, I hate that presenter, or I love him, or I don't like her, she annoys me. You say it to your family in your sitting room. Now suddenly they're tagging you on Twitter to tell you annoy them. Do you know what I mean? It's like, oh my God, how unbelievably mean.
Yeah, see, that's, you're going on your way then. That's just madness. This is like going on the moon or something. It is mad. It is mad.
But people do it, and they do it all the time.
I know.
And you just have to let it roll off you and go, do you know what? Like for every mean one of those, there's 50 lovely ones.
Yes, and also for every one mean one, there's 100 people that love you that just won't be sending any comments.
Exactly,
you know?
Exactly. They're doing better things. Yeah.
And for those, that used to really upset me when I moved into a different industry and I get all that kind of hate or weird comments. And then now I just look at it like, okay, well, if I have to deal with them for this 30
from modelling?
Yeah, and just changing my whole, social media. I was a teacher before as a model. I actually didn't have Instagram. So, and then, got all.
It's a real Irish thing though, isn't it? Like, who's your man? Who's your man think he is, you know?
And I'm small in the country.
Like, it's so predictable.
Of course it is, but at the start I was so confused, like, this is awful, I'm a nice person, leave me alone. But now when they come my way, it's like, okay, well, if I have to deal with this for the next 30 seconds to a minute, it could be worse, it could be that person.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, I'd rather be on this side of the fence.
Exactly.
Okay, so that was a really roundabout answer.
Sorry, Donica.
The thing is that we answered about 3 different French questions there. That's great. I love this.
Just be yourself, Donica, and tell the story. Sorry.
Gotcha, Donica. Right, next question, Charlie.
I was just wondering, you spoke there a lot about being your own boss and how liberating that is, and you know, not having to tell anyone when you're going to the dentist and stuff.
Yeah.
I feel like that's something everyone kind of wants and, you know, aspires to have one day. Everyone wants to be really autonomous like that, but how do you think you make the step between, you know, being comfortable in the job to going out on your own and becoming your own boss? Because that seems like it's probably the most difficult part for a lot of people, especially if they already have a career. So what would you, do you have any insight into that at all?
I think you're spot on. That's the transition period where the entrepreneur will make a ballsy decision and the non-entrepreneur will stay safe. So your bills are paid, life is comfortable, and you're in that job. And you have to check about the dentist on Tuesday or whatever it might be, right? You're telling people your movements. To be able to walk out of that, I think you need to have started something in terms of market research, the brand development, know there's an appetite for whatever it is. It could be the coffee truck in the park, do you know what I mean? It could be anything. But you need to have either have it going on the side if you're allowed to do that, or have tested the market and done extensive amounts of quiet research, sub-radar stuff if it needs to be sub-radar. I think there's always going to be that scary jump for anyone, you know, and you hear of all the stories of remortgaging the houses and maxing out credit cards and not telling the wife and all this kind of stuff, or not telling the husband, just to make it, you know, non-sexist. But, you know, you hear all those stories and you really only hear of them when they turn into success stories. So I hate to hear the ones that we haven't actually heard about. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So I think there will be sleepless nights in the middle of that, but I think it's an informed decision that you will make, having tested the market in some shape or form.
I've always said that about this society, and what I feel as though it's so advantageous for you guys that are mostly undergrads and would be testing waters or might have some idea as a startup potential or already been involved for the startup potentially, that you will be going from full-time student into whatever you choose. And if you're going to be choosing to go in as an entrepreneur at some stage in your life, you'll probably not get a better chance than the transition out of undergrad, like the graduation. Like you're used to being poor, you're used to being a student up to now, you don't have a mortgage, you don't have a family, and the world is your oyster, and there's nothing to lose, you know. And I think this society has always inspired me in that sense, because I've known people that go on to do things immediately after graduation, but you just have that opportunity. I will never be comfortable 100%, but there will be moments in your life that you'll feel that pull and that drag, and it will make more sense. And sometimes you're forced into that. Like, I had a cushy job for a long time, and it was, you know, unexpectedly changed. I was like, right, let's go create something now. And I had a bit of confidence, and back against the wall you grow. But when you know, you'll know. But I think, you know, a natural transition, such as leaving college, it might be a good time. That's only my perspective, at least.
No, I think that's a really good point, because it is very easy to get cushy, and suddenly you have car loans and you have a mortgage, and suddenly the baby comes along, and then there's way too much stuff happening for you to go, Jesus, it's not just me I have to worry about now, there's an awful lot of other stuff and other people that could be dependent on you, do you know? So it gets scarier, and the gamble is bigger. So I think you're right. I think
definitely more reasons for no. And there's another guy I spoke to recently, Paul Taylor. I don't know if you were at that talk, but we discussed it. He went in his kind of early 30s, and I probably did the same. And I thought that was its actual sweetest spot, because you've built up some experience. You might have had a bit of money. You have a bit of life education also, but potentially not married, potentially not with a family, potentially not with a mortgage. You have a bit behind you, but also not tied down in any sense, and you have a bit of more confidence. Because like, we were all 20, 21, 22 before, and even though we might have great ideas, we might not have that, you know, confidence just yet. But that's another reason, maybe, you know, to maybe go into the world for a while and keep that idea fresh, but don't tie yourself down to anything that might hold you back. And those potential no's in the future, or those potential barriers, try to avoid them for as long as you can, to give yourself that opportunity to segue into running your own business if and when you get the chance. In a nutshell.